Good morning. I'm Michelle Gavin, the Director of Public Communications for the City of Savannah, and it is my pleasure on behalf of the Mayor, Council, and City Manager to welcome you to today's dedication of the Joseph C. Shearouse Playground here at Hall Park. A fitting tribute to a man who devoted his career at the City of Savannah to providing more recreational and leisure activities to people of all ages. A career that spanned more than 3 decades, and he was behind so many of the parks, venues, athletic fields, and activities that we enjoy still today. I would like to begin by recognizing our distinguished guests who are here with us, beginning with our Honorable Mayor Eddie DeLoach, Mayor Pro Tem Carol Bell, Alderman Julian Miller from District 3, which we are in right now in this beautiful park. District 4, District 4. Also, we have our Chief Operations Officer, Marty Johnston here, our Chief Infrastructure and Development Officer, Heath Lloyd, also our Deputy Assistant to the City Manager, Brett Bell. We also have Parks and Rec Director, Barry Baker. Our Susan Broker, our Special Events, Film, and Tourism Director, has also joined us here today, and former City Manager, Michael Brown. I'd also like to recognize several members of the Shearouse family who are with us today. His wife, Celeste, and his children, Elizabeth, Mary Catherine, Stephanie, and Joseph, as well as his brother, Bill. Thank you all for being here today. And also, you're going to be hearing from, in a little while, Ardsley Park Neighborhood Association President Nick Palumbo. I would like to now turn it over to Mayor DeLoach for a brief welcome.
Brief. Main thing I wanted to thank everybody for showing up and being here. It's a great tribute to Joe, and want to make sure everybody recognizes that. And we want to thank him for everything he did for the City of Savannah. For those, I don't know, I thought it was about 50 years, but they say it's only about 40. But in reality, it's great. We appreciate everything he's done. But thank you all for being here, and we look forward to the comments from Ardsley Park guy.
I'd also like to acknowledge Taffany Young, who is here, who's our Chief Community Services Officer, who is here as well. Thank you, Taffany, for joining us. At this time, I'd like to welcome Alderman Julian Miller from the 4th District.
Who's counting? Thank you, Michelle. I want to thank everybody for being here today. This is an important day for a lot of us. Just as a point of reference, everybody who ever worked with or for Joe, he never says anybody worked for him, but if you ever worked with Joe, raise your hand here. It is impossible to have a conversation with Joe Shearouse and not feel like he's been a friend all your life. He's just that type of guy, and that's what I wanted to talk about, that part of his life. We all know what he did with the city, but most people don't know, his family didn't know until just a few months ago, that Joe was the 1973 SEC Athlete of the Year. Not just in track, the overall Athlete of the Year for the entire SEC. He was a 4-year letterman at Georgia. He still holds some track records, although he admits some of them he holds because they don't run those events anymore. He never referred to anybody who ever worked with him as his employee. They were co-workers. And that resonated well throughout the department. He truly cared about his employees, and they knew it, and because of that, every time there was a competition inside the city, his department always won it. He would actually donate his leave time to employees who needed extra time. A lot of times they didn't even know he did it. He was a public school teacher for almost 10 years before he joined the city. His management style has always been that of an educator. While coaching in public school, he told all his students, if you ever need me, call me. Some of them still call him. And it's not about recreation, it's about other things. They call him and look for help. Here's one thing, every athlete really respects other athletes. And Joe, as we all know, was an athlete, ran track for the University of Georgia. As a city employee, he was asked to meet with the NBA commissioner to talk about a team here. He went up to New York, had his meeting. Even though he had a couple of sick kids home, he felt he had to go do that. He went up there, and the league commissioner was so impressed with him, he invited him to come to the NBA holiday party with all the NBA owners and stars and everything. Any athlete would have jumped to this, but Joe remembered he had sick kids at home, and he said, "Thank you very much. I got to go back and take care of my kids." That's the way this guy operated. In high school, he ran track for Benedictine, but he ran up against the Richard Arnold team where Coach Floyd Morris noticed him and said, "You know, this guy is too much of a star. You're not coaching him right. Let me coach him." So he actually went to Richard Arnold every day to practice for track, and because of that, he ended up with a scholarship and a career at Georgia. Joe is one of those guys who is just a leader. Most people know I've been trying to see what we can do about rebuilding the recreation and youth sports. And first person I called was Joe. I said, "Can you help me with this?" And he said, "You tell me where to be and when to be there, and I'll be there." And he's been there. He came up with some great ideas. Joe, we want to thank you for what you've done. I want to recognize two people. Before I recognize Carol Bell, Michael Brown is back here somewhere. Just wave, Michael. He's hiding back there. Former city manager who had a lot to do with all we're talking about today. And now I'd like to bring up Carol Bell, our at-large council member.
Julian times me, so I can't be long, Joe.
You got 40 seconds.
I won't repeat all that Julian mentioned, but my life has been enriched because I knew and still know Joe Shearouse. You know, there are certain people who you meet in life and they fade, you know, they may be just a meeting, but there are certain people who really make an impact on your life. And all that Julian said about him helping people is true because I've seen it demonstrated over and over. I had the privilege to work with him for the time period that both of us were at the city. He tells the story, Bill, that when he first started working for the city, when John Tidwell hired him, he said John Tidwell sent him to me and said, "That lady will tell you any and everything you need to know about city government." Joe and I became friends, and he has proved to be not only just a work colleague, but a friend indeed. So I'm going to do something that's a little bit risky, but Julian, you know I do that. I believe this song epitomizes Joe Sherouse's life. So a cappella for all you folk who are out there who are going to ask, is she really going to do that? And it's entitled, "If I Can Help Somebody." If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody that they're traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you, Carol. Our next guest, Nick Palumbo. Did we turn it off?
Before we get to Nick, Alderwoman Dr. Estella Shabazz would like to say a few words.
Okay, I'll back away. I didn't even see you come up.
Good morning, everyone. I had to rush from the other side of town because I just did not want to miss this moment. Back, how many decades ago, when I first was hired in the engineering department for the City of Savannah. And during that time, the engineers, the city engineer divided the engineers' projects up into different categories. And my category, one of my categories, was the Leisure Services Department. With Mr. Shearouse being there and everybody else in the front row, good to see everybody, who has retired since and some are still working. But I just want to say, Mr. Shearouse, it's been a great ride. I'm so glad that we are able to look each other in the eyes, and we are still on this side, being able to enjoy this. I just want to say thank you so much for all of the decades of work that you have given to the citizens of Savannah, Georgia. We thank you. We thank your family, and I've met since recent days, met the rest of your family, and now working with your daughter. It's all been such a great pleasure. And this right here, I pass this way quite often, and I was wondering when this was going to take place because I was looking for your name. So this morning is the morning. I just could not say something this morning because of the great ride and the great experience we've had together working for the City of Savannah. Congratulations. Well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shabazz. The president of the Forsyth Park Neighborhood Association that also covers this area is Nick Palumbo. He was going to sing today, but after Carol's rendition, he decided not to, but we're going to call on him to have a couple of comments.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Shabazz, for attending. I don't think I would have been able to follow that act, Alderman Bell, so I really appreciate it. Before I go on any further, there is one other person that I really would like to recognize here, and once you meet her, she will tell you that this is her park. So, Joe, this is your playground, but this is her park, and that's Miss Joan Quarterman. Joan is a tireless defender of this park, and you can't spend a single day in it without running into her, and she will find you. She will tell you that she is the eyes and ears of this park, and she knows everyone who comes through it, and I really thank you for your service, and there's just thank you so much. Thank you. So good morning. Thank you for joining us to celebrate, honor, and recognize today one of Savannah's finest civil servants, Mr. Joseph Shearouse Sr. My name is Nick Palumbo, and I serve as the president of the Ardsley Park, Chatham Crescent, and Ardmore Neighborhood Association. And we stand here today at one of Savannah's great meeting grounds, a crossroads, if you will. And I'm going to give you a little history about this place to put it into context. So Hull Park was established in 1925 and named for the mayor at the time to serve as an exclamation point to a most ambitious project for one of Savannah's finest neighborhoods, Ardmore. Ardmore was developed by the Lattimores, who also did Ardsley Park, and as they put it, to get into the times and to get it right. And they envisioned this large, central diamond-shaped park to be the epicenter of their neighborhood. Far more ambitious than the squares they had dedicated before, to compel neighbors from the entire neighborhood to come together in one park and be a community. Just west of where we stand right here on this diagonal road was the Savannah Electric Company's trolley line that ran from Isle of Hope and Sandfly to downtown. This great connector ran all the way down the coast and passed right next to where we stand. And the other diagonal road right behind you existed prior to this neighborhood, was The Duran Canal, which existed not only for drainage but actually transportation, if you take that back. And to the north, another ambitious project, what they call the Cottage, financed by a philanthropist, Edwin Gould, is a home for women and children, in which today is the Haversham School. But for all this history and context, our sense of place exists here, not because of its history, but because of this playground. This is where our neighbors meet. This is where the school kids play. Birthday parties abound, where people from inside and outside of this neighborhood feel comfortable to let their children run, where every citizen's heart can sing. This is but one example of the fine work that Joe was able to accomplish as one of the most dedicated civil servants in the city of Savannah. And today, in this great and historic and most celebrated of places, we dedicate to you. Thank you.
And before we get to the sign unveiling, I would like to now welcome the man of the hour to say a few words, Mr. Shearouse.
First of all, I want to thank Mayor and Alderman. This is quite an honor. In my years with the city, I started thinking, how many of these events have I been to? And it's well over 50 or 60, but I've always been on the other side. So I do appreciate it. Frankly, I think it shouldn't have my name on there. I was saying to someone earlier, we should list all of the members of the former Leisure Services Bureau that worked to put this together, because it wasn't just me, it was a team effort. And Julian, there's a lot of confidential information you got about me. We're gonna have to talk about where you found all that now. I tell you, nothing is safe. But I want to thank my family, and they've been recognized, but especially Celeste. I want to talk a little bit about this park, and when we talked about doing this event, it was okay, 5 minutes and we're going to be out of there. We're going to uncover it and go. So we're past the 5 minutes. But I have to respond to some of these things that have been said. This park, when they decided something was to be named after me, I asked that it could be this playground, because this is where Celeste and I brought our children. And Joan Quarterman was here then. And that's prior to when I worked for the city. And then when I first started working for the city, this was one of the first projects, or probably was the first project that I worked on. So it's always been very special, because it's where my kids came to play, and it's where I bring my grandchildren now, and it's our neighborhood park. And you explained it perfectly. It's where you meet people and you get to know them. So it is very special. So thank you for honoring me this way. I do want to thank some other folks. And I guess a lot of people don't know this, but the person most responsible for my career with the city of Savannah is Earl Etheridge. Where's Coach Etheridge? I thought I saw him coming. Coach Etheridge. So when I graduated from Georgia in 73, I started teaching, and I wanted to be a coach. And I was coaching, back then we had junior high. So 73, 74, I was junior high. Then Earl calls me and says, how about coming and coaching at Windsor Forest? And I'm like, man, 1 year I'm already into big time. So I did it 1 year, and I shook my head and said, I'm not too sure about this. So I stuck it out another year, and I said, I know I don't want to do this. So Earl, thank you. It went from there that I thought I wanted to be a principal, and that finally I was lucky enough to get a job with the city. And after 1 week, I came home and told Celeste, I don't believe that they pay me to do this. It's really been great, and I thank all the people that have helped me along the way. There have been some very special moments. Edith Crawford, you can remember, way back in 1988 or so, and I said, I'm gonna pick you up, and we rode around in the car for 2 hours to talk about employee issues that we had, and that took care of it. So communication, a great team of people to work with. So I'm very thankful for that. Thank all of you for coming. I really expected it to be 5 or 6 people. There's so much more that I can say, but 5 minutes is up. So thanks again. Leisure Services staff, they're here. Thank every one of you. Michael Brown, the other thing I was very lucky is that Don Mendonza hired me, promoted me. So I learned from two of the best city managers in the country. And I can remember when Michael was assistant city manager, and John Tidwell would send me down to see Michael to try to figure out how to do our budget. And back then, he was the only one in the city, maybe one of the few people in the country that had a word processor. The rest of us didn't know what a word processor was. So I'd come down there with my scribble scrabble, and Michael would take it and make it make sense. And then later when he became city manager. So between Don Mendonza and Michael Brown, you couldn't have had two better people to learn from. So everyone that has helped me, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we've done this 4 times now. So I've got the message. I will stay retired. Thank you.